Sergeant Lena Crow wiped her nose with the back of her grease-stained hand and squinted at the tangled mess of wiring before her. The maintenance bay of the Valiant's Pride was cold, colder than usual, but that might have been the fever talking. She'd been fighting it for 2 days now, ever since they'd passed through that ice-laden nebula. Something in the recycled air had gotten to her, and now her head felt like it was stuffed with cotton. Her joints ached, and every breath seemed to rattle in her chest. Just a cold, she muttered to herself, reaching for another tool. Humans have survived worse. The ship's intercom crackled. Sergeant Crow, Medical Bay requests your presence for— Tell Doc I'm busy, Lena interrupted, her voice hoarse. The starboard coolant system won't fix itself. There was a pause, then a resigned sigh. Acknowledged. Lena allowed herself a small smile. She knew the crew worried about her, especially the Cathara, the leonine species that made up most of the ship's complement. They were predators, powerful and deadly in combat, but they treated their human allies with an almost parental protectiveness. It was sweet, really, if sometimes a bit overwhelming. She returned to her work, fingers fumbling slightly as another shiver ran through her. The diagnostic scanner beeped angrily and she cursed under her breath. This was going to take longer than she'd thought. In the crew quarters, 3 levels above, Cub Tarek pressed his tufted ear against the wall, listening intently. The young Cathara's golden eyes were wide with concern. She's still working, he whispered to the cluster of cubs gathered around him. I can hear the tools. But she's sick, whimpered Cub Mira, the smallest of the group. Mother said humans get very ill when they catch colds. She said they need warmth and rest. Tarek's tail lashed thoughtfully. He was the boldest of the cubs, the one who always led their adventures through the ship's corridors. And right now, Sergeant Crow, the human who always had time to show them how Earth machines worked, who told them stories of Terra's great beasts, who never treated them like they were too young to understand, needed help. Then we'll help her, Tarek declared, rising to his full if still quite small height. We'll bring her warmth. How? Asked Cub Duran, tilting his head. Tarek's whiskers twitched with determination. Blankets. We'll bring her every blanket on the ship. Lena had just finished rerouting the primary coolant line when she heard the soft padding of feet behind her. She turned, expecting to see one of the adult crew members, and instead found herself facing Cub Tarek. The young Cathara was dragging a blanket nearly twice his size. His small fangs clenched around the fabric. Tarek? Lena's voice cracked. What are you doing down here, little one? The cub dropped the blanket at her feet and looked up at her with solemn, golden eyes. You are cold. You need warmth. Before Lena could respond, more cubs appeared. Cub Mira struggled through the doorway with a heated thermal blanket, while Cub Duran and 2 others carried what appeared to be someone's entire bedding set between them. They came in a steady stream, each bearing blankets, quilts, and throws from various quarters throughout the ship. Oh no, Lena said, though she couldn't help the smile that tugged at her lips. Cubs, you can't just take everyone's blankets, or for Sergeant Crow, Tarek announced proudly as if that explained everything. The other cubs chirped their agreement, piling their offerings around her workstation. Lena felt her eyes sting, and she told herself it was just the fever. The cubs worked with single-minded determination, arranging the blankets into what was quickly becoming a nest. Cub Mira even attempted to drape one over Lena's shoulders, though the human had to lean down considerably to help. You should rest now, Tarek said seriously, his small voice taking on an authoritative tone that was clearly mimicking the adult warriors. Warriors cannot fight when they are weak. I'm not exactly fighting anything, Tarek, just fixing— Lena paused as a violent sneeze overtook her. She fumbled for a rag to cover her face. The cubs exchanged knowing looks. You are fighting the cold sickness, Tarek insisted. Mother says humans are very brave but do not always know when to rest. She says this is why they need packs. More footsteps echoed through the maintenance bay, these heavier. Commander Wraith, Tarek's mother and the ship's tactical officer, appeared in the doorway. The massive Cathara female took in the scene with one sweeping glance, her cub surrounded by his friends, the mountain of blankets and the feverish human engineer in the center of it all. Tarek, Commander Wraith said, though her tone was more amused than stern. Did you organize a blanket raid? Yes, Mother. Tarek stood straighter. Sergeant Crow is sick. She needs the pack. Wraith's gaze softened as she looked at Lena. The cub is not wrong, Sergeant. You've been down here for 16 hours. The coolant system can wait. or another engineer can handle it. Wraith stepped forward, and despite her fearsome appearance, all muscle and fangs and sleek golden fur, her voice was gentle. The cubs have made you a nest. The least you can do is use it. Lena looked down at the eager faces of the young Cathara, then at the ridiculous pile of blankets they'd assembled. She felt another shiver run through her, and this time she didn't fight it. All right, she conceded, lowering herself into the soft nest. But just for a little while. The cubs chittered with delight, immediately adjusting blankets and tucking them around her. Cub Mira settled near her feet, purring softly, a sound that Lena had learned was meant to be soothing. Tarek positioned himself like a small guardian at her side. Sleep now, Sergeant, Tarek said solemnly. We will protect you while you heal. Commander Wraith watched from the doorway, her tail swaying with satisfaction. The cubs understand something that you warriors sometimes forget, she said quietly. Strength is not just in pushing forward. Sometimes it is in accepting help from your pack. As Lena's eyes grew heavy, surrounded by warmth and the gentle purring of the cubs, she had to admit that maybe, just maybe, the Cathara had a point. Humans had survived worse than a cold, yes, but they'd always survived better together. And as she drifted off to sleep, Sergeant Lena Crow couldn't help but think that she'd found herself one hell of a pack.